The Tree Peace Project. Good. Compliment of the season, wherever you may be listening to me. I am the Reverend Dr. James Wuye, who is the co-founder of the Interfaith Mediation Center, and recently the Commonwealth inaugural Peace Prize winner, together with my colleague. I have this passion to regreen our environment. Why do I have this passion? It all came from the fact that recent years we have challenge of what we call firewood fuel. People burning down trees to make charcoal, to use it as fuel for cooking. And some of them also just use the trees for cooking. As a young man, I grew up seeing a lot of different types of trees that are autochthonous. What I mean by autochthonous is that they are indigenous to our environment. They were actually planted by creation himself. And for me, as a Christian, I believe God planted them through the use of nature and the ecological system. But as the days goes by, people are cutting down these trees without replanting them. They don't even know how to start the nursery because they all grew up seeing them sprouting from the ground wherever they were. But unfortunately, they are cutting them down in millions of tons of woods just to use for cooking and also for export. They are using these trees to export to neighboring countries that are already devastated by climate change. Countries in the Sahel, especially neighboring countries like Niger, they depend on woods and charcoal that are made from Nigeria to fuel their system, to use them as a cooking alternative to using gas and fossil other kind of fuel. So with this challenge, there is mass encroachment in terms of desert encroachment to areas and communities which are hitherto afforested. They have been deforested. The government of the country has not provided adequate alternative, and hence the challenge of getting alternative fuel like gas for cooking. They are not readily available, and the majority of the poor people in the rural area only depend on these trees that they never planted. They just saw them there. So the Peace Tree Project also look at types of trees that are beneficial to what we call sedimentary farmers, and also beneficial to nomadic farmers. What I mean nomadic farmers, I mean livestock farmers and crop farmers. Over the years, the livestock farmers will cut the leaves of these trees and use it for fodder for their cattle and livestock. And some of these leaves are also medicinal to the local community, because out of the leaves also, there are the shoots of the trees are used as local, what we call salad. You mix it to get a menu that is quite healthy for the people. The fruits that comes out of those trees also are both eaten by human beings and birds and other animals like squirrels and other creeping animals. So 7 of these trees have been identified, and I have started raising up those trees. I raised about 5,000 of what we call the black plum. The native name for it is called dinya. There is no nursery for it anywhere in Nigeria, except somewhere else I don't know. But for now, I know nobody cares about the black plum because it came out naturally, but they are cutting them down for firewood and never replacing them. Another one is called the African black mahogany. The African black mahogany is also a very strong tree. It grows big. That during independence or pre-independence in Nigeria, the colonial masters did raise a couple of those trees, but nobody cares about them now. Everyone that is standing, most of them standing in the forest has been cut down for what we call they do logging as for building houses because they're quite a strong species. That also I have raised a couple of thousands and have distributed them to schools and to religious places of worship to be a canopy for them. But it is not about just planting the trees, it's about educating people about the importance of the trees and what our forefathers have used the trees to do for them to get in the interest of replanting and regreening forests that have been depleted by firewood and loggers, firewood, charcoal producers and loggers who log for building, firewood for building, wood for building. So with this in mind, the Peace Tree Project identifies 7 of those type of trees, which I have been able to find a botanical name for the 2, the black plum and the black African mahogany. Others are in our indigenous language here in northern Nigeria. During the next coming season, rainy season, we intend to carry on what we call change makers tree planting, where young people, boys and girls, will be taught to plant trees and will be incentivized to do that. Number 2, it is intended that using our value, religion, as a Christian and as Muslims, we'll go into our holy books and bring out justification for planting the trees and nursing them into big trees, from shrub to trees. It is also expected that when we partner with young children and schools, they will educate the young people and also give them a task that every child must plant a tree on his or her birthday. And prayers will be said on those trees. And these children will be tasked to ensure that those trees survive through watering them and taking care of them. For the religious leaders, we want to make green churches and green mosques in order to have shade and canopy when the churches are filled up and the mosques are filled up to the brim, just like it happens here in Africa. The shade, the canopy by those trees, people can lay their praying mats, and people can also keep their seats or benches under those trees and have their service or worship under those trees. So with this in mind, we intend that this tree planting project will raise the consciousness of people, and it also give them that sense of belonging and ownership. It is also believed that traditionally, when a child is born, the uterus that is taken, a tree is planted under where the uterus in Africa is buried, because in the African tradition, we dig the soil to bury the uterus. At that point where the uterus is buried, a tree is planted over it. So a child is told, you see this tree? It was planted over your uterus. So take care of it as you take care of your life. So it is protected. The other one also is what I call our own system of divine intimidation strategy, invoking divinity to get compliance. How do we do that? It is believed that when you task people, you superimposing that instruction on the holy books, people obey and comply and look at the trees as an act of worship to God. I recall a couple of years back, I went to a village and asked them to plant trees to commemorate my visit. And I asked that every girl child, from a baby to a woman to a grandmother, they should plant an orange tree. And for male, they should also plant a mango tree. 3 years later, the villages were selling those mangoes and oranges to people who like to have them for juice or for eating mangoes as we slice them and eat them. This is the economic component of the peace tree. The more you get people doing it as an act of service, the choice of what they plant is important. I want to encourage people to plant indigenous trees, not ornamental trees, not psychedelic trees that are imported from elsewhere, and trees that are already cut down. It is my intention to also teach them how to nurse the new sprouting, because it sprouts and starts another branch. How do the pruning techniques to allow the tree to grow back into its full self again. So this is the background of what I intend to do in the next phase of my life, together with the support of Imam and support of other young people, the support of the children in schools from ages 7 to age 16, and see how they can imbibe this culture of planting back and giving back to nature what their parent has taken from nature. The children should give it back. Though it's not their doing, probably their parents do not understand, but they will grow with an understanding that trees are supposed to be part of our lives, and without trees, we may not survive. So this is the Peace Tree Project in a nutshell.
Thank you, Pastor James. What a beautiful project. What are some of the challenges that you've seen with the Peace Trees Project? And is there a way that the ecologically induced violence in Nigeria has impacted it?
Very well. One of the challenges, first and foremost, is that the locals do not understand that they can together plant trees and support the trees to grow. That the benefits of working together to reduce the climate-induced violence can be addressed once they work as a team. 2, there are some trees that are quite difficult to nurse. I tried, after investing a huge amount of money, to buy certain seeds of the shea butter. Shea butter is used for oil. Shea butter oil, cream, and all that is gotten from that. I do not know the techniques, so I was just experimenting. I didn't know that I need to crack the shell before burying it down, so putting it in the soil. However, all the bags, heavy, 100 kilograms, 300 kilograms of seed that I bought from a neighboring state or province, as the case may be, they were all eaten by rats and squirrels, because the fruit is quite nutritious to those squirrels and rats. So I missed that. So I hope that this year, the planting season, I'm going to seek advice from experts, because it has never been done before. Nobody has planted those shade trees because we find them naturally growing in our forests. And two, also funding to get enough of those seeds. We need source to raise and care for those trees, and watering, source of water to ensure that the trees are maintained. Hence, that issue that I say about incentivizing people to ensure that their trees do not die. And I see more stronger partnership with students and school children. Once educated and given the challenge, I'm sure that with a lot of excitement, they will plant the trees and make them survive. So this rainy season, in the next 2 or 3 months, it will be a rainy season here. I will look for the seeds. But before I can concretely say the number of trees that I have raised, it must be around September, close to your fall, September, October. So, or autumn, about autumn. So that is when I can categorically say how many trees I've been able to raise. But there is funding challenge. There is also sustainability. But with this new initiative, partnering with school children and partnering with traditional leaders, partnering with village heads, partnering with religious leaders, I think, I'm quite sure, we'll move the process further and faster.
Inshallah. Can you tell us more about the religious components of peace trees and how do you engage both Christian and Muslim sisters and brothers?
Yes, on the part of using the two religions that are prominent in Nigeria, there are biblical verses, there are Quranic verses, there are teachings of those two faiths. Like, let me say a little about Islam. It is expected that in Islam, 3 things happen to one when one transits from this world into heaven. He will be remembered by the work in times of faith, his contribution to the work of the mosque and Islam. He will also, they will also be remembered for what they left behind, like trees that others are enjoying, will be enjoying. So some of those things are what they usually encourages Muslims to plant trees. And in some of the principle of war in Islam, trees should not be burned down, should not be hacked down, should not be cut down. Fruits should not be cut down. Any food, farms should not be cut, should not be destroyed. And in the Christian faith, of course, we believe in Genesis. The first assignment that Almighty gave to mankind was to dress the garden. So what is it about dressing the garden? Ensuring that the garden survives. And we have a global garden. We have our villages, and we have to continue to ensure that people are educated to stop cutting down trees, but rather to be planting. It is part of our strategy that will, within our churches, under the ecumenism, where various churches come together or various mosques under Islamic Ummah, is to say there will be a tree planting week or day where the leader of our denomination, at the moment I am the second leader in my denomination, Assembly of God in Northern Nigeria. So as the second in command, I'm able to influence all the pastors to bring all their congregation on one day to ensure they use that day to plant trees. So, and in Islamic front also, I'm sure like the concept of the neighbor in Islam, the ummah, the oneness of the brethren in Islam, under that which Islamic teaching says one will be remembered for, is that of the concept of a tree. There is a story in Islamic teachings of a young man who saw an old man planting the date tree. And the young man was laughing at the old man. And he said, "Old man, you are planting this date tree when you will not survive to eat of the fruits of the date tree." And the older man told the younger man, "Son, I'm planting this date tree for you, because the one that I've been eating and using was planted by someone." So with that teaching, with that metaphor, we can get our religious colleagues to participate. We'll be in the front leading while they will follow. So I'm quite sure our idea of regreening our communities using faith will grow faster than when you use secular methods of telling people just plant the tree because of climate change. No. How do you superimpose those teachings on the Bible or on the Quran?
Thank you, Pastor James. So much of planting trees is about hope and hope for the future generations. So I'm wondering, for you, what is the link that you see between the environment and conflict, or the environment and peace?
Now, you see, most of the conflict between herders and farmers in northern Nigeria, in the Sahel region, is sometimes misconstrued or has a religious coloration. Now, the fact that trees are being cut down without replacement. Number one, the drainage pattern of the country, the water system is drying up because there is no canopy for the streams. Two, the vegetation is becoming drier because people are cutting down trees without replacing them. Then the herder, which is the livestock farmer, when he goes to cut down trees and in the farm, in the land belonging to a sedimentary farmer, conflict ensures because there is not enough vegetation for the cows. So they now begin to eat farmers' crops. And as they do that, they engage in violence. And this violence snowballs into war, because when a farmer and a herder, or a livestock farmer and a crop farmer fights, people line up behind them. Those that are herders will line behind herders, and those that are sedimentary farmers, and villages are sacked. People are killed. It's all because the resources is not managed properly. It's because there is not enough resources for both the farmer and the herder because of lack of vegetation cover. And there are no alternatives, there are no laws. So they keep killing one another. So, and when this happens, it also comes into the cities, and people begin to have negative solidarity along ethnic and tribal lineage. So it is part of the crisis we are having in Africa, in Nigeria, in the Sahel region, within the northern Nigeria, is all about climate-induced violence. If we are able to address this thing from the grassroots, from the beginning, just as we are doing, it is going to address a lot of the challenges that has bedeviled our region. It's going to address a lot of things that have snowballed into religious violence. It's all about climate, and ecologically induced violence. So that is why this project, if it is supported, I want to tell you categorically, between 50 to 60% of the crisis in Africa, in northern Nigeria, will be addressed, in the Sahel will be addressed. And that is why we don't just want to stop the thing here in Nigeria, we want to take it up to other areas. If you go to Ethiopia, for instance, they have what we call an open forest churches. They feel that worshiping under the trees that are naturally planted by God is better to worship under the trees than worship in a house. because the birds singing in the trees, the drop of the water in the stream gives that atmosphere of strong spirituality and connection to the creator and the creation. So these are some of the things that we feel we have as a niche as religious leaders to promote peace through direct and indirect addressing of climate-induced violence.
Thank you, Pastor James. Imam Ashafa, do you have anything to add? And welcome, good to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having the day and for having us online. Pastor James has said the most important thing. And in addition to what he has said, specifically, our project, our focus is looking at 3 dimensions, because cutting down trees are for 3 key important reasons. The first one are cutting down trees by human because of our human needs, especially the farmers. Number 2, cutting down trees because they serve as fuel. Number 3, cutting down trees because the animals and other creatures need it. So we talk about the trialogue of intervention: food, fuel, and feeds. Food for human, fuel for cutting down for firewood, which we use for cooking, and feeds, which we use for the animals. The animal use tree as feeds, the human use them as food and or as fuel. So these 3 dimensions have been the most important factor driving the cutting down trees across Africa, and not only Africa, across different parts of the world. And this is important because on the 2 aspects for the human, either as food or as natural use, the human bloggers, the bloggers are there across in the forest, cutting down most of these important trees for human needs. And of course, the second most important need are the livestock. Livestock, they are those who take care of the animals, who are the headmen in Africa. They have a serious challenge with that. In some other part of the world, like Australia, New Zealand, they've introduced the issue of grass grazing of grass and producing of grass as alternative to cutting down trees. In Africa, it is just a beginning of a journey that I've not yet. So therefore, and the remote cause of this factor, the remote cause is nothing but the climate change, which deforestation happened in the large scale. So therefore, for me, I feel strongly what we introduced is saying regreening of our communities, regreening of our mosques, regreening of our churches and places of worship, regreening of our schools and colleges. This, if we bring this into play, regreening of our homes and our cities, if we will be able to do this, we'll be able to have a better route. And that's why we're looking at opportunity to say, can we regreen our metropolitan cities? Can we regreen, and in regreening metropolitan cities, our cities, we start with our places of worship, then our schools, then our houses, then our offices and communities with relevant trees. Then we create what we do nursery to look at osteopocros trees, trees that are becoming extant, traditional trees that are becoming extant, economic trees. How do we bring those trees back to life? By nurturing them and creating most of these forests that have been pulled down by modern challenges of this industrial complex. This industrial complex with climate change, with climate, with what do you call it? The challenge we have about the issue of, I forgot the name. Whatever the case may be, most of these negative toxic waste that come from most of our industries in the big cities? How do we create an environment, forestries around cities, outside cities, forestries that will help in creating safe environment, green environment, and green communities? And then the third one, which we did, was alternative to cutting trees for cooking. Cutting down trees for cooking, what are the alternative means? That alternative means to do that is one of the important things we introduce, and it has helped a lot. So we believe that if we can be able to get enough support, our regreening processes, our planting of new trees, not just planting the trees, but focusing on some certain specific areas, we will be able to go a long way in regreening our communities and bring back life into our society.
Thank you, Imam Ashafa and Pastor James. How long has Peace Trees been going on? And do you have an estimate of how many trees that you all have helped plant or seen planted as part of this project?
Pastor James will respond to that.
That's great. It's been going now for about 3 years in terms of actually boot on ground. But the concept, the idea came quite long, maybe 5 or so years back. But to talk about the number of trees planted, we raised 5,000, what we call the black plum, and a couple of thousands over maybe 10 or so of the African black mahogany. And it is intended that, we're using resources only available to us because of the interest we have. But now, if we have the support, we are going to escalate it into millions of trees, because we will be going out this year to scout out for the seeds. Some of those seeds are wild, while most of them are wild, actually. And the issue about going into the forest in the past 3, 4, 5 years, it was difficult because of the bandits. So insecurity has been a challenge to our getting enough seeds to plant, to raise nursery as we have wished to. But now that the government of Nigeria is almost has reduced and degraded the activities of the bandits in the bush, we will be able to raise more trees. And our targets for this year may be between 1 to 2 million trees, then subsequently escalate beyond that. So that's it. Some of them have already grown in some schools and in some churches, in some mosques, in some places of work, in offices. We have those trees already growing. However, like we did say, it's important to incentivize them and escalate it by recruiting more students in secondary school, forming clubs for tree plantings within our region, and using faith-based approach to motivate them to plant more trees. So, so far, that's what we have on record. And we can even send you pictures of some of the women, religious women, going out there to get the nursery, to take them to the field to plant, so that you can have some of the records, both that of some men and some religious clergymen and women planting those what we call indigenous trees that are going extinct, that are indigenous to society. That is our desire, and we do hope we get the necessary support. I assure you, sky will be the beginning, not the limit.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'd love to see the photos. And Imam Ashafa, do you have anything to add?
Well, I feel he has said it all.
Yes.
What is important is we are just focusing now. The focus of the center and our energy is to see how do we regreen our environment. Faith, the role of faith in regreening our community is a very important factor, because we have seen motivated by faith into actions. In our traditions, our religious traditions, as well as children of Abraham and other faith communities, we have seen the very important root of how do we create awareness for religious leaders across our faith and traditions to be able to move into creating, regreening our environment as ordained in our scripture. Now, the focus is creating more foot soldiers who will take up this responsibility is what we are more driving in and what we are working on right now to see that it's another track entirely, apart from us being the carpenter in the field, the gardener, apart from us being the gardener, we are creating more foot soldiers of religious leaders, religious actors, faith-based organizations to move into regreening our environment, to save the earth, to save the planet. That we are already doing, and we shall continue to do in a greater way.
Amen. Pastor James, what advice do you have for people and communities who want to do something similar?
Okay, I don't know if you are privy to one of our film 5 minutes on the regreening Nigeria, the role of religious leaders. You have seen that, have you? You have
Yes.
seen that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you see the charge that we have in that little 5 minutes documentary is one advice. Two is to maybe have mentors. At the moment, there are countries, there are religious traditions that have given their time to doing this. But in a multi-religious society and complex community like ours, it is important to learn from those who have done something before. So if people want to go into this, they should be sure they know the values of the community they are engaging, their tradition, what they think about vegetation, and those sacred teachings about regreening or vegetation or tree cuttings, and those values need to be adhered to so that one does not kill the vision in the mission.
Thanks, Pastor James. Imam Ashafa, what are there things you would like to add?
I think for me, it is very, very important to say that if you take these initiatives, each one has a track. The initiative of getting more foot soldiers from religious actors to move into the field of protecting nature and regreening our society. Because in Nigeria, we have what we call the Ministry of Forestry. On the forestry, we have what we call the forest rangers. These are government officials who are working to protect the forest, to protect trees and environment. We are looking into a future of collaboration with such agencies and such institutions to be able to see that we can have a large training and sensitivity of these actors into engaging more passionately faith-based motivating factors and tools for them to do that. The second one is to produce training material, faith-based training material. I remember when we met in Kenya at Uhuru Park, and we moved to the garden created by Wangari Maathai, the Nobel Peace Prize winner woman, where we produced a 5 minutes documentary of what needs to be done to protect the environment. I believe that if Tanenbaum Interreligious Center for Understanding will be able to support us to produce training manuals, training resource material, which we have, faith-based, to produce those faith-based return materials, it will go a long way in supporting our work, especially as we say, we are dealing with religious leaders, we are dealing with schools, and faith-based organizations that are interested or that will be motivated to walk along the track of promoting regreening of our environment and society.
Thank you, Imam Ashafa and Pastor James. I have two more questions for y'all. The next one is, what do you want people to know about peace trees that you haven't shared with me already?
What I want people to know, especially as faith communities, planting tree has a connecting with our with our journey of life. It goes beyond this world. It's a transformational journey whereby whatever you do, especially one of the things we do that live after us on earth is tree planting. When you plant tree, you water the garden, you protect the environment, you have a spiritual reward that doesn't count here, that even after you left this world, you continue to harness that reward. So that's why for people of faith, especially the children of Abraham, we have these key drivers that says when you plant a tree, you are not only, your reward does not end with you going, it still the reward live after you have left this world. And that is one of the important drivers I want people to know, is like investing into your future. When you plant the tree, you are investing into your future, not into the present alone. So that is something new I want people to know, especially those who doesn't know, and to invest in the future and in the life beyond the present. That's for me.
I think Imam has said it as it should be. Prior to his joining the meeting, I've exactly said that from the Muslim perspective. So you can see, Jenny, that is buttressing the same thing that I've said. So I in concomitant with him, I don't have anything to add on this question.
Thank you both. It reminds me of this quote I read from, I think, George Orwell, which is, if you are losing hope, push an acorn into the ground.
Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah. I'll send you the full quote. I just don't remember it. Wonderful. Okay, are you ready for my last question?
Yes, please.
If you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be and why?
Wow. If I'm a tree, I will be that big tree that will serve as a perching ground for birds in the air, and a resting place, a canopy for people to stay under and have succor. Both the birds and human beings will enjoy from me, and I will bear fruits in my season. Thank you.
Beautiful answer. Thanks, Pastor James. Imam Ashafa, over to you.
I would love to be a bobo tree, because the bobo tree gives hopes, it gives life, it gives food, it serves as medicinal in curing a lot of diseases, and it also serves as the plant give hopes to human and to animals. So it's a unifying factor. That baobab tree is a unifying factor. So that's why I would love to be a baobab tree.
Beautiful answer. Those are all the questions I had for you all. Is there anything else you want to put out there?
The need is real, it's urgent, and it's desirable. And if anybody wants to plant for future, if he wants to invest in the future, is to invest in these autochthonous trees that are going extinct. Otherwise, generation coming will not know how the vegetation used to be like. We want to return back the Eden in our communities. What God planted originally through birds and animals within our environment, we want to return it. So we need urgent assistance to raise food soldiers to join us, both young children, women, clergy, traditional, to join hands, shoulder to shoulder, to do this tree planting as a remedy for violence that will engulf not only Africa, but the whole of the world. Now it's time to act. It's time to collaborate with religious personalities that have large followership. In Africa, many people go to places of worship, and we should cash on that resources to make our planet green again and prevent violent killing in our society.
Thank you, Pastor James. Imam Ashafa, anything you want to say as your final words?
What I want to say is that today the earth is troubled because of so many works of our hands, weapons of mass destruction, wars are going on, access to resources and natural resources, and the world, because of our needs and our greed specifically, we have moved so much into destruction of natural environment. We have corrupted the nature, we have polluted the human nature and environmental factors. And the consequences of this is enormous. The need to save the earth and to save the human nature, the human family, is imminent. The danger is imminent. The cry for climate change, the cry to do something to protect nature and our environment is enormous. I believe this project, if you give a strong support to this, and we produce food soldiers, and we change the tides of deforestation, we change the tide of climate change and the sinking. Today, the sinking of the river, many rivers is rising, the ocean is rising high, and there's a lot of animals who are becoming extinct. Animals, birds, fish, various seafood who are becoming extinct today because of the work of our hands. So therefore, the need for us to make a change is more glaring now than ever. The need for us to stop this war, to stop the greed within us, and to move to our needs is more imminent. And to get that to happen, we must create alternative means for people to meet their needs without and stop the greed. And to meet our natural needs, our human drives, we need to have a way to say the world is today crying. The nature is crying in need of help. And if you don't help today, we are sinking our own future. So therefore, I appeal to international bodies. I appeal to corporate bodies and corporate organizations. I appeal to intergovernment agencies, relevant government agencies, to invest in deforestation, to invest in afforestation, to invest in anything that will help to regreen our environment and to heal the oceans and to heal the desert from this desert encroaching that is eating so much of various parts of the planet. This is my appeal. This is my prayer and my hope that as long as we all invest into the future, we invest in this project, we're investing in our future so that we'll be able to have enough food, enough feeds, enough fuel to warm our own nature environment without causing damage to Mother Earth. And environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor James. Thank you, Imam Ashafa. It's so good to see both of you and to hear about the project.